Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with me, Leon, the Manchester cigar smoker. As promised in my last video on the Fonseca, we are going to be smoking a New World cigar today, and one that I haven't really enjoyed. I've got a nice black coffee with me, with freshly grinded, AeroPress filter, lovely stuff, and let's just get to it. Let's get my cigar out. It's in my pocket here. Show off the case. As you can see, it's a Davidoff. Specifically, the Davidoff Late Hour. Now these are the Belicoso. They were released, I believe, 22nd of January. They came out. And they are a 4.5, I believe. That's the last one that I had in the box. This was actually loose in my humidor, and this was on my side. I went through the very slight extra effort of putting it back in the tin to show you off the tin. They're 4.5 by 46, I believe. Now, I really enjoy the normal Winston Churchill range. The standard Davidoff Belicoso, the creamy wrapper, the white band, a lovely cigar. Now, here's the cigar for thumbnail purposes. This cigar, to me, I've smoked 3 of these out of this tin of 4 that I bought, and this tin cost me 60 quid. £60 for a tin. I've had 4, and I haven't enjoyed any of them, really. I've not hated any of them. I've smoked 2 of them sat down, and I've smoked 1 of them while walking. So I've given them a fair chance, in good environment. I've given them a chance in a less than good environment, because sometimes cigars can be decent in environments you wouldn't think, like a walk. But so far, I just simply have not enjoyed these. They haven't had loads of flavour that I've wanted. They've been so much milder than the normal Late Hour. And I don't mind that. I don't mind the idea of having a milder Late Hour that's a bit shorter, that comes in tins of 4, that you can have in the morning or lunch. It's 2 o'clock right now. I've had my lunch. I'm outside in my tent, and I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to this, which you shouldn't really be thinking when you're about to have a cigar. I'm not going to look forward to this, but I've got one left, and I'm going to smoke it, and I'll light it up. I'll give you my initial flavours. We'll talk a little bit about the cigar, why it's come to be, and all that. A lot of the times I would V-cut a cigar like this, but I'm going to straight cut it at an angle. Quite a big, you can see that, quite a big straight cut, but it's just to give it the most chance, best airflow, best burn and all that. The draw, no problems, good draw. And then those get toasted and lit. Yeah. As I said, this cigar is £15 a cigar, £16 in some places. I imagine they're slightly cheaper in Europe, though I don't know what the prices are going to be like over there, because it is still a Davidoff. And I like the Late Hour blend. I like the Robusto. I like the Churchill. I think they're both lovely, full-bodied smokes. But I haven't enjoyed this. The smoke instantly is quite dry. It's quite a dry smoke, it sucks the moisture out of your mouth, which the normal Belicoso doesn't do, and I don't think that's a very enjoyable feeling. With a cigar, I don't really enjoy cigars that do that. I don't mind it if there's lots of flavour to back it up, but there isn't here, really. I'm getting kind of a rich earthiness, and there is kind of a like an almond nut, and I wouldn't say I'm getting any coffee. I wouldn't say I'm getting any chocolate. Definitely not getting any cream. No spice either. No spice at all. I'm not getting pepper, white or black. I'm not getting baking spices. No cinnamon or anything like that. I'm getting a bit of earth, a bit of nuttiness. I guess maybe a little bit of woodiness there as well. You can see the ash on this as well, instantly. And obviously we'll give it a little bit of a go, but the ash is quite dark. Now, this was released, this cigar, because of how well the normal Winston Churchill line did. The Late Hour, and they had their Belicoso and Petit Panettone. And both of those cigars are lovely, short format cigars, but they're also, importantly, medium filler, or mixed filler. What that means is most cigars, you have the whole leaf rolled, and then with the binder and wrapper on top. With short filler, you would have lots of cut-up tobacco, wrapped in a binder, wrapped in the wrapper. What mixed filler is you have a couple of long filler leaves, one or two, and then you put inside that long filler cut-up tobacco, short filler. Normally this is the tobacco that's come off the larger blends that can't be used. That's put inside and then rolled up. So you get a mix of long filler and short filler. The idea is that you save money, you're able to bring out a cigar for cheaper, but you also have a decent smoking experience with decent flavour. That's the idea, and I've had a lot of mixed filler cigars in my time. Famously, Jose El Piedra, Quintero, and Flor de Cano, their standard production range is all mixed filler. And in the New World, brands like Quorum, Drew Estate Factory Smokes, they are also mixed filler cigars, and they're meant to be kind of budget options in the market for you to be able to enjoy a nice cigar but at a lower price. Now, with this being mixed filler, I'm not expecting tons and tons and tons of flavour, but what I would like is the same thing I get from the normal Winston Churchill Belicoso, but in late hour flavours. So, I've smoked Winston Churchill Robustos and Churchills, and I've smoked late hour Robustos and Churchills. The Belicoso does give you the feeling that you're smoking that that Winston Churchill blend, but in a smaller format, and it's not as complex, but it's nice. Whereas this is, very honestly, nothing like a late hour Robusto or a late hour Churchill. Nothing alike. There's a bit of earthiness, and again, kind of a bit of a nuttiness. There isn't any of those bold flavours or any of the complexity. And it's a real letdown from Davidoff, because Davidoff is a brand that is obviously expensive, but you expect to go and buy a Davidoff cigar and it be a good smoke every time. I've had very few bad Davidoffs. I've had a couple quite expensive Davidoffs that have been a letdown for the price, just not complex like I would like, or whatever. That's a palate thing. For some people, they would love that cigar. For me, I think it was I had the Davidoff Diadamas Finas. The tobacco was aged in red wine barrels, I believe. I had that at an event, and I just didn't enjoy that cigar that much. It was nice, but it wasn't anything amazing. This isn't obviously that expensive. This isn't a Diadamas Finas. But it is, 15 quid a cigar. For a small cigar. And for that price in the UK, I can get cigars that I think are better than this. I don't know if you've noticed, I've also had these problems. There's no burn on that wrapper there. There's burn in the middle. I do believe this is tunneling. When I've been smoking it, I've also been getting kind of crackling sounds from this cigar. And I really don't understand how Davidoff have got it so wrong. The normal Winston Churchill range is great. And I've heard Davidoff are releasing a new line similar to the Nicaragua and Yamasa in a couple of months. I believe April is when that is going to be released, and I'm looking forward to trying that. And I'm not gonna. I had a signature. No, I had a number 2, not that long ago. A signature number 2. Which was nice. But it is disappointing, and I think disappointing especially when you expect something to be good. So instead of buying a single or just 2, you buy the tin, and then you smoke one and it's a bit meh. And I bought these when they came out, basically, so a month and a bit, about 6 weeks ago at this point, 5-6 weeks ago. And this one has just been sat in my humidor for about a month and a bit. So it has had time, this one has had time to rest, to chill out. Any problems initially, but it's just not there for me. It just isn't there for me, flavour wise, enjoyment wise. I mean, I'll smoke through it, I'll get through this entire cigar, I'll let you know if anything improves. Obviously we are only just into this smoke, but I already wish I was smoking something else, and I'm not getting the type of flavour that I want from a Davidoff, and it's really disappointing. And I'm not going to say to people, don't go out and try these. If you've not had one before, go buy one. They're 15 quid. Get 16 quid. Get just a single. Try it. Don't buy a tin. Always what I would say. Don't go out and get a tin, because I can't recommend buying a tin. Having bought a tin and having all 4 in this tin not be amazing, I can't recommend buying the tin. I can recommend buying a single and trying it if you haven't had it before. But yeah, I can't recommend anything more than a single, just to try. It's very dry smoke. There's kind of like a burn, bitter flavour there as well. Sometimes you can get bitter in a good way on a cigar. That's kind of the same way a Negroni is bitter, or the same way that a nice beer is bitter. You can get good bitterness. This is kind of burnt, acrid bitterness, and I do wonder if maybe, having announced these last year and then wanting to get them out into market, they've rushed the tobacco agent and have just not released tobacco that's aged enough for these. Obviously, I know because it's short filler, to probably at least half, if not more, of this cigar is short filler, you've got to have some younger tobaccos in there, because what they'll likely be doing is getting the offcuts from other late hours. But if that's the case, the tobacco should be aged. If it's offcuts from your Robustos and Churchills, that tobacco should be aged. So it has to be a problem, in my opinion, from the blender and from the blend they've put into this. Because for me, this just doesn't cut it. As a Davidoff cigar or as a late hour cigar. I've never had a Davidoff. This is the first Davidoff, and I've had a couple of these tunnel. As you just saw before, I've had to re-top up the light on the side to make sure it's not tunneling. Anyway, I doubt we're going to see much change in this, so I'll come back when we're down to about the band. We're down to about here. I'll come back and I'll let you know my thoughts. I'll let you know if I've enjoyed it at all. But yeah, so far disappointing. It is what it is, but I'll see you soon. What can I say about this cigar? Really, what can I say about this cigar? It just hasn't been very enjoyable, and that's why I decided to smoke it in the afternoon and not the morning, because if I was going to have a morning smoke, I want something that's going to perk me up, something I'm going to enjoy, something mild, something that will just be a nice easy smoke and enter me into the day, but give me a nice, help me focus, you know, just a nice smoke. In the evening after my tea, I want something very tasty, something to go with a glass of whiskey, something that I can just really get my teeth into and enjoy. My afternoon smoke tends to be a middle of the ground, a cheaper cigar a lot of the time. Something that is just a nice way to sit back, relax, chill out in me tent with a smoke. Let's have a sip of coffee. Firstly, the construction on this. You can see there, and I'm showing you very clearly, that this thing isn't burning right. And I have topped it up a couple of times already, but it's not burning, right? And not a single one of these I have had has burnt well. Not one. And that's saying something. When 4 cigars in a tin, not one of them burns well. Now, I've had some minor burn issues on the other Belicosos, but they tend to not be every single one. Maybe 1 out of a tin will have a bit of a burn issue. And at that point, I can put that down to, oh, it's my problem. Has the cigar improved? Slightly. There is kind of a slightly deeper flavour there, slightly richer flavour. And it has rounded out a little bit. But there's also the bitterness is still there, and that bitterness has increased. There's been a pickup in strength, but it's still nowhere near that of the Robusto or the Churchill. And again, that wouldn't be a problem if the complexity of flavour was there. With the standard Winston Churchill Belicoso in the white tin, you get cream, macadamia nut. I get white chocolate from that cigar. I also get white pepper. Sometimes I get baking spices as well, especially towards the end of that cigar. That cigar is also creamy all the way throughout, buttery in parts almost. That cigar has 5, 6 or 7 different flavour notes, and the cigar develops. It's the same size as this cigar, and I think it's cheaper generally as well. I think they're about £13 to £14 per stick. I remember when they used to be about 10, 11 when they first came out. But that cigar has a lot going for it. And also that cigar is a lot more versatile in that Winston Churchill, standard white tin Belicoso, you can smoke that at 9 in the morning with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea with your cappuccino or your Americano or your Earl Grey or your English breakfast. You can Smoke that at lunch after you've had a nice meal, and you just want something light after lunch. You know, maybe with a spritz, glass of white wine, even a glass of light red wine. You know, if you had a Pinot Noir or something. And I would even smoke that cigar in the evening as a first cigar. Maybe if I was smoking 2 cigars and I had the Davidoff, I would have that Davidoff Belicoso, and I would have something stronger. Maybe I'd have a late hour Robusto, or I'd have a Partagas or a Bolivar, or maybe I would have, you know, just a stronger New World, Plasencia, or an Adrian Fernandez, or maybe even a Gurkha 15 or 18. Oh, it's beginning to rain. I can hear the rain on the top of my tent. But this, I wouldn't smoke this in the morning, I don't think. It's mild enough that you probably could, but you wouldn't want it to be first thing in the morning. You wouldn't want to wake up, have your shower, have your breakfast, and have this. This would be something you'd have late morning if you're going to have it, you know, 10, 11 o'clock, brunch time. Kind of, you know, maybe with a coffee, or, you know, maybe with a drink. You could have this in the afternoon, maybe, as I'm doing now, with a coffee. Second cigar of the day, perhaps. This is my first cigar of the day. But I don't know why you would pick this over other great cigars that you could smoke at that time in the afternoon, when you could smoke many cigars. There's so many cigars out there at this price point as well. At £15, 15 to £16 a cigar, you know, you can get the Hoya Classico, the Hoya de Nicaragua Classico selection, which is a Corona. I think they're about £14-15 in the UK. Brilliant smokes, Corona size, great cigar. There are Cuban cigars. The Quintero Panatella, I think, is a nice cigar. Better than this. Jose El Piedra, I don't think any of their cigars are over 15 quid. Maybe the Cazador. Maybe the Cazador is, and maybe the Brevas is just over. But you can get most of those cigars at under 15. The Petit Caballeros, which is the Robusto size one, that comes in between £12 and £14, where depending where you buy it on. And I'm looking at UK prices here, not to mention the immense selection you can get overseas for a lot cheaper than 15 quid. But at 15, you could get the Belicoso, the standard, the Winston Churchill Belicoso, which I've already said why it's a better smoke. There's a spice there now on the retro, and of a black pepper. The earth is there, and I do think the end of this cigar is probably the best bit of it, just because you're getting kind of those stronger notes that you'd expect from a late hour, but it's still not complex, nearly as complex, which again is to be expected. But it's 2 flavour notes, 3 at most. 2-3 flavour notes is not what you want from a cigar of 15-16 quid in this size from this company. You know, especially when you know they can do better, and especially not when you're having burn problems the entire time. I'm trying to think what other cigars at around this range you could get. There's a Mexican brand, so Casa Torrent makes Revolution cigars, which are long filler. They come in a wide Corona and a short Robusto. The wide Corona is 12 quid, and the short Robusto is 14. Much better cigars. Buenaventura's favourite, they make the BV range, which is neither here nor there. They're okay. But they make their BV minis, which are £6 a cigar, £7 a cigar, and they make a petty, like a petty Robusto, with a Claro wrapper. That's £8.50. Or if you want to the Robusto, you get the Buenaventura Favoritos. They do a Connecticut, a Habano, a natural, a shade grown Habano wrapper, and the Maduro. All 3 of those cigars are brilliant for the price. £13.80, £14. Cheaper than this. So you look at the market. You look at the market out there. You look at what cigars are available. You look at the pricing of the cigars. In the UK, I'm not even thinking about overseas prices, you look at the UK pricing, the UK market. Why would you buy these? Why? What is the reason to go out and buy these when you have so many options in the UK market better than this? And if I wanted this strong late hour flavour, I would rather book up an extra Amjas or Robusto. I want to say about £35 to £40 for the Robusto off the top of my head. I think the Churchill is about 48 in my local tobacconist. So I'm going to say the Robusto is probably around 40. So that is a lot more. That's £25 more. But I think in terms of the worth you're getting, just the quality of smoke is 2.5 times more than this. Easily. Easily. There are cigars cheaper than this that are better. There are cigars slightly more expensive that are better. You can pay £4 or £5 more at £20 a stick, and there are wonderful cigars out there at £20 a stick. It makes me angry. It makes me frustrated and so disappointed in the brand. Because I was excited to buy these. I was excited when they announced the Belicoso Late Hour, because I love the normal Winston Churchill Late Hour, normal Winston Churchill Belicoso, and I love the Late Hour brand. And I think the Winston Churchill brand offers a slightly cheaper entry into Davidoff, and I think they're a great way to introduce people into cigars at a reasonable price. The Belicoso is one of the cigars I recommend to people, even today, as an entry-level cigar, because it's complex, it's subtle, it's not too big, it's not too expensive, and it's so versatile. This isn't. It just isn't. And I know Davidoff can do better. I know the type of cigars they can produce. I had a Signature number 2 a couple of weeks ago, and it was the first time I ever had one, and that's weird for me. I've been smoking cigars for 7 years now. I've heard good things about the Signature number 2, and I've never had one. But I had one a couple of weeks ago, first time I had one. And that was a mild cigar, very subtle flavours. Not a cigar I'd smoke in the evening. I had it in the afternoon about 3 o'clock at the Dakota. And it was lovely. It was a lovely smoke. It was. It was just a nice, lovely, easy smoke. And that cigar's £31, £33, something like that. And I would pay that every day of the week over buying these. I would. It annoys me. It does. Because the UK market, there's such a saturation of cigars anyway in the market. We have new cigars coming out every day, new brands coming out every day. You know, we have new Vitolas. I go into my local tobacconist and I ask if they have something new, and if they do, they have maybe 10 or 12 new lines. Cuba's always releasing something new, and the prices are going that way. They're not going this way, they're not going down at all, they're going that way. And with the way Cuba's going as well, at the moment, with America, they're going to keep going that way. With the war in Iran currently going on, fuel prices are going to go up, shipping costs get higher across the world. There's only one way cigar prices go, and it's up. And so when you look at what you're buying, you want to be buying stuff that you're going to enjoy thoroughly every single time. And even if you're going to buy something a bit cheaper, unlike these are on the cheaper end of the market, you look for names and brands that you can trust. Davidoff is a brand that I can trust. Oh, I'd like to think so. They're a premium brand that make premium cigars, that make good quality cigars, and have done for decades. So when I buy a cigar off them, let alone a tin of cigars, and every single one is disappointing, and I just haven't enjoyed any of them. The first thing I think of is, oh, maybe it's not to my palate. I've had many cigars that I know are good, but are not to my palate. This isn't a cigar that's not to my palate, because I love this type of cigar. I love the normal late hour, and I love a stronger, heftier cigar with lots of flavour, with that bitterness, with that earth, with spice. I love those big meaty smokes. Not here. So if it's not my palate, then it has to be this cigar. And if you smoke 4 of them across a month and a half since I've had them, I've smoked 4, and I've smoked them in different environments and at different periods of smoking. I've smoked them after I've had other cigars in a day, and I've smoked them as my first cigar, which I'm doing here. My palate, completely fine. I've slept. Last cigar I had was a Flor de Padilla, and I had that at 9 o'clock last night. So, and it is now, when I started smoking this, it was 2 o'clock, I believe. So, you know, that's what, 17 hours? Yeah, 17 hours. My palate's clear. And yet, even with a clear palate, it just isn't there. There's an acrid bitterness to this cigar. And I know a friend of mine bought 2 tins of these, I believe, because he was reasonably excited to try them out. Because he likes Davidoff, he likes these cigars. He smoked one, he didn't enjoy it very much. He smoked a second, he literally must have smoked about an inch of the cigar and put it down and then smoke it again. Now this guy, he smokes good cigars. He smokes Opus X's, he smokes Cuban cigars, you know, he smokes expensive cigars, good quality stuff, and he wants to be smoking high quality stuff. And I can understand why, if you smoke high quality cigars, you'd get an inch into this and put it down, because it's been work smoking this, you know, and I've been doing this for the channel so I can tell you what I'm getting from it. And honestly, it's bitter, it's acrid. There's a black pepper spice. There's an earthiness. There's no nuttiness anymore. But there's no chocolate, there's no coffee. You know, there's no dark coffee, there's no dark chocolate. There's no like residual nuttiness. There's no nice dark woody notes. There's no spice to the cigar that's pleasant on the tongue. It's not heavy either. There's no heft to the smoke. The smoke's kind of thin, wispy and dry. It makes my mouth dry. So I'm reaching out for me drink more. So I'm drinking my coffee. And then I'm smoking my cigar after I've had my coffee, and I'm like, oh, maybe this will be a good pair. This is a nice medium roast coffee. Very nice. Ruins it. Turns the flavours that I've coated my palate from this get ruined from this. So I take a sip of this and then I try and leave it as long as I can before I smoke this again. I'm getting irate, I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting annoyed. Because nobody wants to go and spend their money and then sit outside. It's about 12 degrees today, it's not too cold. I'm in my shirt and jacket, I've got my fluffy pants on. I'm not cold, but, you know, I'd still rather not be, if I'm going to be sat out here smoking a cigar, I want to be smoking something good. I shouldn't rant too much. I will finish this off. I'll probably smoke about another half an inch. Because I paid for it. And it isn't the worst cigar I've ever had. And if I'm looking at this objectively and fairly, it's not cost me 30 quid, 40 quid. It's cost me 15. And looking at it, away from what else I can buy, compared to the other late hour range, I can't rate this more than a 3 out of 10. I think a 3 out of 10 is fair. I think, you know, if this cigar cost me £6, £7, you know, if I paid 25 for the tin, around that, I wouldn't mind. I'd probably say these are actually probably about a 6 or a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10 if they were about £6, £7. Just because at that price point, the value you're getting, the quality of the cigar you're expecting to be lower, and so the value proposition goes up. At £15, £16, because the flavours aren't great, because of the burn issues, because of the expectation on the brand, I'd have to give it a 3 out of 10. Again, it's not the worst cigar, and I'd recommend, maybe you'll like it. If you like Late Hours, at least give it a try, buy a single and try it, but I can't recommend it in a tin form, and I can't recommend trying more than one, just so you know what it's like. But that's it from me. Yeah. There's not many reviews. I don't think I've done any reviews so far where I've actually rated a cigar as low as 3 out of 10. I try to only smoke quality on the channel. I try and show people good cigars. Cigars that people might want to buy. This is a cigar a lot of people might want to buy. So I thought, I have one, I might as well tell you. 3 out of 10. Don't waste your time on a tin. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, I hope everyone has a good week. It's Monday today when I'm recording this. It'll either be up later tonight, maybe on Tuesday. It'll be late Monday or Tuesday. But I hope everyone has a good week. I'm hoping to get another video recorded at some point this week, depending on how my schedule is. It's quite busy in the middle of the week, so it might be a weekend video. But I hope everyone has a good time. And as always, stay smoky, folks. I'll see you later.